The landing cost of premium motor spirit imported into Nigeria has risen by 13.3% in 1 month to about 180 naira per litre on the back of an increase in global oil prices. Going by the petrol price template of the PPPRA, Petroleum Products Pricing Regulatory Agency, the landing cost of petrol rose to 179 naira 67 kobo per litre last Friday from 158.53 in the prior week. Now, with the expected open market pump price of the product increasing to 202 naira per litre from 181.53. In same news, Petroleum Products Retail Outlets Owners Association of Nigeria, Petroleum, has announced an increment in the retail pump price of premium motor spirit, commonly known as fuel, from 160 naira per litre to 178. The national president of Petroleum, Dr. Billy Gillis Harry, who made the announcement in Port Harcourt, said the increment was imperative due to the increase in the cost of the depot price of PMS. Joining us to discuss these headlines is Peter Esele, former president of PENGASSAN, Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria. Good morning, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
What influence does Petroleum have over petrol prices compared to, say, the Petroleum Products Pricing Regulatory Agency?
Well, I don't think they have the right to increase the price of petrol. I think what they've just done is to draw attention to the challenges that they are facing in the industry. From what I gathered, they feel they are paying more than they are expected to pay from the depot. So that was one of the ways they can draw attention to their plight. But ordinarily, it's the PPPRA that has the right to increase the pump price.
And so, as you just said, that's the struggles that, rather the economics of it that they're facing that led to this announcement. In your view, completely reasonable, considering what's going on in the downstream sector?
Yes, I think their plight, I think, is reasonable because of what they are. One of the things I gathered is that they made payment for supplies maybe in November, and they are expected to pay more now that the price of crude has increased. So that, to them, they are not happy about it, and so they have about 15,000 members and 15,000 outlets, which is huge. And so they also look at that as a leverage for them to bring pressure on the government to also look at their plight. But they are within their rights to do so.
Thank you. Now, in December of last year of 2020, the federal government agreed to reduce the pump price of petrol by 5 naira to 162 naira per litre. What does this development do to that agreement?
One of the things you have to know is they've not yet enforced what they want to do. But one of the things federal government is doing is the price at that time was down. So federal government looked at it using PPPRA to reduce the price. But what you have now is if the price of crude is about $60 now, so with the devaluation of the naira, so we are looking at 179, 180 as the landing cost. And going forward, we may be paying, if it's fully deregulated, we may be paying as high as 198, 200 naira per litre.
Okay, so I want to touch on what you just said there. If it is fully deregulated, is it still reasonable to question whether Nigeria's downstream sector is truly deregulated?
I don't think we are fully deregulated because I still think government is still paying subsidies. There's still subsidy payment being made somewhere. And if you say it's fully deregulated, if landing cost is at 180 and you are selling at 160 or 168, who is paying the difference?
Thank you for that. That's the simple and straight mathematics. Okay, so can Nigeria ever have a truly deregulated sector when you've got, I guess, the subsidies are one, but then the labor unions constantly taking government to task over prices that are supposed to be governed by the laws of economics?
It doesn't have to do with the labor unions. One of the things is that there's the politics of policy. So what government has to do is to look at what is my policy thrust, and what is my policy direction, and what do I have to do to have labor unions buy in, to have the ordinary man on the street to buy in. Labor unions will take directive from the ordinary man on the street. If the ordinary man on the street says, this is the way I want it, you see labor unions will back off and go to their traditional role of asking for what is the need for the workers.
All right, so thanks for mentioning the ordinary man on the street. Crude oil, you just mentioned it, touching $60 per barrel. Should there be some kind of ongoing awareness campaign from government that informs the ordinary man of the streets, on the streets, of the impact of rising crude oil prices on pump price, or is that too much to ask?
I think government should be doing that. It's something that we expect the Ministry of Information to talk about, to bring out the economic aspect of it and let people know this is where we are, this is where we are going. But the other side of it is for the government to also reach out to the people. This is what we are doing to cushion the effect. So if the prices are going up and the people had to go through some pain, then you also have to find a way to mitigate whatever pains that they are going to go through. That is the politics of deregulation.
Not easy. Not easy at all. Speaking of things that the government can do, I know I've asked you this before. You've been on the show before. I know you know what question I'm asking. The refineries, have we given up on revamping them, or are we waiting for the private sector, i.e. Dangote, to come in? Where are we with that?
I think NNPC keep working on how to generate the money to go ahead and revamp the refinery before they finally also privatize it. But I think going down the road, the NNPC may have to do the NLNG model. I don't think the union will resist that. Because what the unions actually want is to also see the refineries work. Because once the refineries are working, then you also get more union members. But the way it is, no, I don't think PENGASSAN or NUPENGA are happy to see the refinery go in huge deficit.
Thank you. I was talking earlier with our Arise business analyst, Bode Oshosumi, about the stock price of a renewable energy company skyrocketing by about 3,000% over the last 8 months. As a member of the petroleum sector, how do you feel about the conversation about Nigeria's quest for renewable energy and one day depending less on fossil fuels?
I think so far we are still in that stage of talk. We've not gone to the action stage yet. But the last time I think I heard the government saying by 2025 they want to make 30% of the vehicles on our roads to be on renewable energy or clean energy. But it's one thing to say it. It's another thing to have the policy to drive it. Another aspect to have the money to drive it. And then to also create the enabling environment for investors to come and put their money. So that's key. It's not just for us to talk about it. It's for us to have the discipline to follow through.
Indeed. Okay, so 2025 is just 4 years from now. Do you think it's a realizable goal over the next maybe 10 or 20 years?
I think it's doable in 15 to 20 years if we put all our attention there. If the government decide that, okay, come out with a policy and also decide to finance it, tax break, make it easier for foreigners to come and invest in the economy, it's doable. But if it's all talk, it's not possible even in 30 years.
Thank you for that. 2 weeks ago, Shell lost an appeal regarding pollution in farmland in the Niger Delta. Petroleum products have had an impact on the environment. Where does the environment and climate change rank on the level of priorities for the sector, in your view?
I think majorly that rests with the government. If you find out whether in Europe or America, you also know what happened to the oil spill in the Gulf in the US, and you know how BP has to pay a huge amount to settle the class action that were filed against them. And so what comes up now is, what is our government's policy trust on the environment? And don't forget, the government too, one of the things we must always factor in every time we mention Shell, don't forget that whatever payment Shell has to make, the Nigerian government will also pay 51% or more. So because it's a joint venture. So the Nigerian government has majority of the shares. So at the end of the day, it's not just Shell that will pay. It's also Nigerian government will also pay some money. So what the government must do is to ensure that whatever environmental policy that is in place and the various agencies do what is needed to ensure that these IOCs comply with best practice in environmental regulation.
Thank you for that. So, final question for you. Do you expect an announcement, or in 30 seconds, yes or no, and expect an announcement on the pump price going up, yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. Peter Esele, former president of PENGASSAN, thank you so much for joining us on the Global Business Report. We appreciate your time.
You're welcome.